Hello everybody, welcome to the home of the Singapore Combat Engineers. I am Lieutenant Colonel Teo Tee Kai, Commanding Officer of the 30th Battalion, Singapore Combat Engineers. And today, alongside my fellow hosts from the engineer family, we will be bringing you into our camps for an exclusive into what we do. This is Nee Soon Camp, home of the Singapore Combat Engineers. Do you know the engineers first started out on Pulau Belakang Mati in October 1967 and shifted to Gillman Camp as the island was developed into Sentosa? When one thinks of combat engineers, the image of a bridge construction or demolition expert comes to mind. That is certainly true to some extent, but the engineer formation is so much more than that, as we will all come to know in a few minutes. Underpinning our motto, advance and overcome, are our core values of professionalism, fighting spirit, leadership, and creativity. These are ingrained in our collective DNA as we go about our daily tasks. The formation began as a single combat engineer battalion, which eventually evolved to today's 30th Battalion, Singapore Combat Engineers. Now, let us take you through a journey of the formation's history, which includes significant operations over the years, as well as give you an exclusive into what the bridging engineers and CBRE engineers do. Let's go!
Hi, welcome to our Heritage Center in Nee Soon Camp, where I, 2nd Warren Wilson Chia, Regimental Sergeant Major of the 39th Battalion, Singapore Combat Engineers, will bring you through our illustrious history. But before we talk about our history, it's trivia time. If you have been paying attention, you will definitely know the answer to this. Stand a chance to win this by heading over to our Instagram page to participate. Search for our account at Our Singapore Army, follow us, click on the profile photo, and answer the questions in the comment box in the story. Winners will be selected at the end of the video, and the questions are over here. Alright, back to topic. Ever since our journey began in 1967, we have been involved in many operations both in Singapore and on the international stage. One of the most noteworthy incidents was the Laju incident in 1974. This was Singapore's first encounter with international terrorism. The EOD engineers were activated and successfully neutralized the 8 remaining IEDs, playing a decisive role in rendering Singapore safe from terror. Another significant operation was Operations Flying Eagle. On the 26th of December 2004, an earthquake of 9.0 magnitude struck the west coast of Sumatra, Indonesia, resulting in many deaths with many more missing. The Singapore Combat Engineers were deployed, and within the first week, a total of 2 landing beaches and 7 helicopter sites were successfully established by the engineers, bringing in much needed supplies. Did you know that there are 5 different specializations? They are the field engineers, bridging engineers, armoured engineers, CBRD engineers, and EOD engineers. Although we have many different specializations, there is no denying that our roots began with the field engineers, or sappers as they were known back then when the SAF was first established. The combat engineers specialize in providing mobility, counter-mobility, and survivability options for the Army. Every combat engineer, regardless of specialization, is considered to be fundamentally field engineer trained. That is, all of us first undergo field engineer training before branching off to one of the many diverse specializations. The bridging engineers, as the name suggests, are well known for their unique capabilities to provide transport across water bodies. This is done in the form of bridges, rafts, and assault boats. The signature platform of the bridging engineers is the Mobility 3rd Generation, or better known as the M3G. This amphibious vehicle can be used to construct a large raft across the water body to facilitate the maneuver of troops and vehicles. The next specialization is the Armored Engineers, characterized by the use of Armored Engineer platforms to provide mobility support to the armored units. These platforms provide responsive mobility and counter-mobility support, such as the clearing of minefields, moving of earth, and the building of bridges. The next two specializations hail from the CBRE Defence Group. As part of the SAF's High Readiness Corps, these units that are placed on standby during peacetime are ready to be deployed for operations at a moment's notice. The first of this unit is the Chemical, Biological and Radiological Defense, or CBRD engineers. They specialize in detection, identification and decontamination of chemical, biological and radiological threats. Although most soldiers in the army will recognize the CBRD engineers through its signature gas mask and camouflage printed chemical protective suit, the truth is that is just one of the many suits available to the unit. In addition to just donning of these protective masks and suits, the CBRD engineers also operate state-of-the-art equipment that helps in returning a compromised, dirty area, so to speak, to normalcy. Next is the Explosive Ordnance Disposal, or EOD engineers, specializing in dealing with all unexploded ordnances or improvised explosive devices, also known as IEDs. The EOD engineers utilize technologically advanced equipment and tools to disarm different explosive threats. In their operations, they also commonly use search dogs to detect explosives. Recently, we had an operation that hit much closer to home.
Hi, I'm 3rd Warrant Victor, a team commander in 36th Battalion, Singapore Combat Engineers. As EOD engineers, our unit handles all explosive-related incidents in Singapore. The most recent and much publicized operation was the disposal of an aerial bomb at Jakim Street. The 50 kilograms World War II aerial bomb was discovered at a construction site during excavation works on the 16th of November 2019. Our responders assessed that it was unsafe to move the aerial bomb and that it had to be disposed of on site. Just later that day, the bomb was successfully disposed of with minimal interruption to citizens. One of the most immediately recognizable suits used by our operators, specifically the EOD operators, is the EOD-9 bomb suit. This suit, weighing from 28 to 36 kg, depending on the size, provides protection against explosion-related hazards. It gets pretty hot in the suit, especially with the weather in Singapore. This helmet comes with a lighting, blower and a communication system which allows us to communicate with the rest of the team. Another nifty equipment used by the EOD operators is the Talon robot. This allows the operator to disrupt an IED remotely while the operators themselves remain at a safe distance. This is a medium-sized robot that is able to maneuver in tight spaces to do disruption of IED using highly pressurized water. Once the IED is disrupted, the operator will then perform a final clearance to ensure the device is no longer working.
Operating closely alongside our EOD engineers are the CBRD engineers. I am Captain Vanessa Tan from Headquarters CBRE Defence Group, and I'll show you what we do as CBRD engineers. The CBRD engineers deal primarily with 3 invisible threats: chemical, biological and radiological. In our training and operations, we work in very close proximity with these hazards. If not adequately protected, these hazards could potentially threaten our lives. This therefore necessitates the use of protective equipment such as the one that I'm wearing right now. However, what I'm wearing now is only one of the many different types of protective suit that we employ in our operations. For example, this level D suit is the most basic protective suit used by the SAF. Depending on the threat conditions, for example, when there is gross liquid contamination or in confined spaces, we will adapt our PPE accordingly, with the level A providing the highest level of protection. But beyond just the usage of suits, CBRD operators also employ a range of equipment to detect, identify, as well as decontaminate to prevent further spread. One of the most important equipment we have is the AP4C, a handheld chemical agent detector. This tool allows the almost instantaneous detection of chemical threats in the field and has therefore become one of the most important piece of equipment we employ in our operation. But this is merely one of the many equipments we use. We also have specialized technologies we employ for on-site identification as well as decontamination. The CBRD engineers also work very closely with the EOD engineers in several areas. One of these areas is the sweep operation. Look, we even employ man's best friend to search for this potential hazard. As part of our national security during peacetime, we consistently perform security sweeps before high-profile events such as the recent Trump Clean Summit in 2018 or the annual National Day parades. These sweeps are done to ensure that the area is free from any potential chemical or explosive hazard before the commencement of such events.
Speaking of NDP, other than the security sweeps, we combat engineers also provide the platforms for the presidential gun salute. Look at them floating. Hi, I'm Second Warrant Francis from HQ Army Combat Engineers Group, also known as ARMSEC.
I'm Second Warrant Charlie, an instructor at Bridging Engineers Training Center. In my role as an instructor, I mostly train specialists and officers cadets in their leadership and technical skills in the context of 35th Battalion, Singapore Combat Engineers, also known as Bridging Engineers. One of the most significant platforms used by the Bridging Engineers is the Mobility Third Generation, or M3G for short.
That's right, the M3G was manufactured in Germany. It was first introduced in 2006 to replace our aging equipment, the Comet. The M3G is an amphibious vehicle that travels both on land and on water. It transforms by opening up its pontoons to find stability in water.
Yes, the main role of the M3G is to provide a bridging solution to support the SF for overcoming water bodies. Each M3G is operated by a crew of 4, comprising a RAF commander, rig pilot, our drivers, and a deck hand. 2 of the M3Gs in water can form up an M3G RAF, capable of ferrying various vehicles.
This is where we train in and look at the view.
Well, that's it from us. We hope you guys have enjoyed the peek into the Singapore Combat Engineers. Do check out our exciting exhibits at our formation booth within the virtual exhibition. Thank you and goodbye.